Every person who has ever lived has died. And yet, no two cultures have ever agreed on what happens next. For some, there was a river. For others, a bridge. And for some, a scale that weighed your very soul. Today, we descend into the afterlives of 6 different civilizations. And by the end, you'll notice something strange that almost all of them share. In ancient Greece, death was the beginning of a journey. When you died, your soul arrived at the river Charon, the border between the world of the living and the world of the dead. But crossing it was not free. On the near bank waited Charon, the old and silent ferryman. The Greeks buried their dead with a copper coin beneath the tongue, because Charon carried no one who could not pay. Those without a coin were left to wander the shore for 100 years, belonging to neither world. Those who crossed were met by Cerberus, the 3-headed hound, not to stop those entering, but to stop anyone trying to leave. For the underworld of Hades had one unbreakable rule: whoever enters never leaves. But once inside, not all souls shared the same fate. A judgment awaited them. The virtuous, the heroic, were sent to Elysium, blessed fields where the sun never set and spring never ended. Most ordinary people remained in the fields of asphodel. No reward, no punishment, only a pale, colorless, endless waiting. And the greatest sinners, those who had defied the gods themselves, were cast down into Tartarus, a place of torments without end. For the Egyptians, death was a trial. The soul entered the Duat, the underworld, and began a long and dangerous journey. At its end lay the Hall of Two Truths, and there the soul faced the most famous judgment in all of history. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, stood beside a great scale. On one side, he placed the heart of the dead. On the other, a single feather, the feather of Mayat, goddess of truth and justice. If the heart was heavier than the feather, weighed down by sin, by lies, by cruelty, the scale would tip. And in that moment, a creature waiting beneath it would devour the soul. Amit, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus. The soul it swallowed would simply cease to exist. And to the Egyptians, there was nothing worse than that, to be erased completely. But if the heart was as light as the feather, the soul was welcomed into the eternal fields of Aru. In the Norse world, your afterlife depended on how you died. Warriors who fell in battle were chosen. The Valkyries, armored warrior women, flew above the battlefield and gathered the bravest of the slain. Half of these fallen were taken by Odin to Valhalla, the other half by the goddess Freya to her own field, Folkvangr. But Valhalla was not a reward, it was preparation. There, the warriors fought each day and rose again each night to feast, for they were training for a battle yet to come. Ragnarok. At the end of the world, they would fight beside the gods themselves. And those who died in their beds, of sickness or old age, no matter how good a person they had been, they went to Hel, a cold, misty realm ruled by the goddess of the same name. No glory, but no torment either, only a silent, endless waiting. For to the Vikings, what mattered was not how you lived, but how you died. And the worst fate of all was not the sword, but the bed. For the Aztecs, the afterlife followed a rule stranger than almost any other. Where you went was decided not by how you lived, but by how you died. Those who died an ordinary death, of sickness or age, face the hardest fate of all. They went to Mictlán, a ninefold underworld. But reaching it took 4 years. The soul had to pass 9 trials. It crossed between mountains that crashed together. It endured a desert of winds sharp enough to cut. It passed rivers of blood and hills of ice. This is why the dead were buried with a dog, for the final obstacle was a wide river, and only a faithful dog could carry the soul across. At the end of the journey, the soul was not punished. It simply came to rest and faded from existence. But for those who died another way, other doors opened. Those who drowned, those struck by lightning, those taken by certain illnesses, they were welcomed into Tlalocan, the paradise of the rain god, green, abundant, a realm of endless spring. And men who fell in battle and women who died in childbirth earned the highest honor of all. Each day, they accompanied the sun across the sky. For the Aztecs, the noblest death was not a peaceful one. The most sacred end came on the battlefield, or in the bed of birth. In Japanese mythology, the afterlife begins with a love story and ends with a betrayal. When Izanami, the goddess of creation, died, she descended into Yomi, the dark land of the dead. Her husband, Izanagi, could not bear it and followed her to bring her back. In the darkness, he heard her voice. "Do not look at me. Light no flame," she said. "I will ask permission to leave, but wait for me." But Izanagi could not wait. He lit a torch, and what he saw filled him with horror. The woman he loved was gone. In her place lay a rotting body, crawling with decay. Like anyone who had eaten the food of Yomi, she now belonged to the land of the dead. Izanagi fled. He escaped the powers of darkness that chased him and sealed the entrance to Yomi with a great boulder. On either side of that stone, husband and wife spoke their final words. And on that day, the living and the dead were parted forever. And notice this. Here, there was no scale, no judgment, no reward, no punishment. Yomi was not the land of the good, nor of the wicked. It was the land of everyone, the common destination of virtue and sin alike. Perhaps the most different of all these afterlives, a realm ruled not by justice, but only by the inevitable. And finally, an afterlife the West has almost never heard of. In the ancient belief of the Turks and Central Asia, the universe was divided into 3 layers. Above, in the sky, ruled Tengri, creator of all things. In the middle, the world of humankind. And below, in the depths of the underground, Erlik, Lord of Darkness. Once he had stood beside Tengri. Then he grew proud, was cast down beneath the earth, and there began to rule the world of the dead. To the Turks, death was a flight. When you died, your soul left the body like a bird. He has flown away, they would say. Even today, the root of the Turkish expression for someone who has died traces back to this belief. But not every soul flew to the same place. Here, how a life had been lived was what mattered. Those who lived rightly, who kept their word, who stayed loyal to their people and their ancestors, their souls rose upward into the sky. The place they reached was called Uçmağ, a bright, green, abundant upper world, a word far older than any borrowed name for paradise. And those who arrived there did not simply vanish. They spoke on behalf of those they had left behind, interceding for their living kin in the presence of Tengri. But for the liars, the killers, those who broke their oaths, another road waited. Their souls could not fly upward. they were pulled down across a ninefold underground river, into the realm of Erlik, into Tamu. And there, the punishment was more than the pain of fire. It was servitude. The wicked soul became a slave to the Lord of Darkness, and sometime even tried to drag its own living kin down after it. And yet, even this was not an eternal, unchanging sentence. The afterlife, to the Turks, was a matter of balance. Sky and earth, light and darkness, Tengri and Erlik. One could not exist without the other. And there was only one human who could travel between these worlds. The shaman. He beat his drum, separated his soul from his body, and rose to the sky, or descended beneath the earth, to bring back a soul that had lost its way. 6 cultures, 6 different afterlives. But did you notice? In nearly all of them, there was a threshold, a river in Greece, a river among the Aztecs, a river in the Turkic belief, a ferryman, a bridge, a border to be crossed, and often a price to be paid to cross it. But here is where they truly divided. What waited on the other side of that door? For some cultures, it was a court of judgment. The Egyptians weighed your heart against a feather. The Turks divided your soul between Uçmağ and Tamu. The Greeks sent you to Elysium or to Tartarus. For these people, death was the moment you answered for the life you had lived. But for others, it was nothing of the kind. To the Vikings, what mattered was not how good you were, but how you died. The same was true for the Aztecs. Your fate was shaped not by virtue, but by the manner of your death. And the Japanese imagined something else entirely. A realm with no judgment, no reward, no punishment. The single common destination of all. These people, thousands of miles and thousands of years apart, with no knowledge of one another, asked the very same question: what becomes of us when we die? And each of them answered it differently. Perhaps that question, and the need to find an answer for it, is the oldest thing we share as human beings. If you enjoyed this journey, in the next video, we descend into the creation myths of the world. Subscribe, because all of it is connected.